previously or judge randomly. Subjects have to be trained or familiarized with the scales. Ratings do not provide continuous measures of workload, only periodic measurements at best. One disadvantage of multidimensional scales is that the more ratings there are, the more difficult it becomes to use the ratings while performing the task. We are now going to take a deeper look into the different kinds of subjective workload measurement, which is defined as the subject's direct estimate or comparative judgment of the mental or cognitive workload experienced at a given moment. There are several advantages to using these types of techniques. They are easy to administer, costs are low, it is high in validity and sensitivity, and it's non-intrusive. Today we're going to look at two examples of subjective workload measurement. They are the National Aeronautics and Space Aircraft Association Task Load Index, or NASA TLS, and Subjective Workload Assessment Technique, or SWOT. NASA TLS is a multidimensional subjective workload assessment tool. There are two ways of taking this assessment: pencil and paper or computer-based. Please note that both methods of taking this assessment are equally as effective in determining mental workload. NASA TLS uses a rating procedure that derives an overall workload score based on a weighted average of ratings on 6 subscales. The subscales are mental demand, which is how much mental and perceptual activity was required; physical demand, which is how much physical activity was required; temporal demand, which is how much time pressure you felt due to the rate or pace at which the task or task elements occurred; effort, which is how hard you had to work to accomplish your level of performance; own performance, which is how successful you thought you were in accomplishing the goals of the task set by the experimenter; and frustration, which is how insecure, discouraged, irritated, stressed, and annoyed versus secure, gratified, content, relaxed, and complacent you felt during the task. NASA TLS uses 3 separate assessments in order to determine a total mental workload. They are weight, ratings, and combined. Weight, aka source of load, is when the subject determines which of the 6 subscales contributed most to workload of that particular task. Scores are tallied from 0, which are not relevant, to 5, which are more important than any other factor. Accounts for 2 sources of the same rater variability are differences in workload definition between raters within a task and differences in the sources of workload between tasks. Rate, aka magnitude of the load, when subjects mark along a continuum in each of the 6 scales at their desired location on the paper or computer. Each scale is divided into 20 equal intervals, and it is a very practical. Last is combined, aka weighting and averaging procedure. Combines the weights and ratings to an overall weighted workload score. It also computes the overall workload score for each subject by multiplying each rating by the weight given to that factor by the subject. The sum of the weighted ratings is then divided by 15, which is the sum of the weights. We now have an overall workload score. Please click on the following YouTube video to observe how to fill out the NASA TLS rating form. The following is an example of how to fill out the NASA TLX rating scale. This is Jamie. She has just completed some mental arithmetic tasks, so it is time for her to fill out the NASA TLX rating scale. In comparison to the computerized version, this pencil and paper version is just as effective in workload analysis. Please make sure to have a writing device to fill out the form. Be sure to fill out your name, the task performed,
and the date in which the task was performed. Note that all 6 subscales are presented on the page. Check off the gradation that corresponds to the perceived magnitude of that subscale's load on the completed task. There are 20 intervals ranging from very low to very high. For example, Jamie has just completed an arithmetic task. She would therefore rate mental workload as having a great effect on her workload. Because performing an arithmetic task is not very physically demanding, she would rate it as having a lower effect on her workload on the scale. Once you've finished rating each of the subscales, you've completed the ratings portion of the NASA TLX.